shop process in Chapter 7 of your .9, please highlight and sticky note and tab for easy reference. If you or your soldiers have issues with aiming in your shop process, Chapter 7 covers aiming. This includes common engagements, common aiming errors, complex engagements, target conditions, and environmental conditions. This is very applicable to the IWQ as we look at what's listed in Chapter 7. Common engagements, they are common and repeatable for the IWQ. Common aiming errors are found during the first tables and should be helped and made aware for your soldiers during the early stages of the IWQ tables. Complex engagements. This includes multiple targets as such in the new IWQ, where you will have up to 4 targets visible at one time. Target conditions. I would hope that commanders would assume the risk and take their soldiers to the range regardless of the conditions, which would include environmental for you during your IWQ. Continuing even further in the .9 is explain the aiming process. We have talked about it before. What I really want you to take home with you is who in this class knows the difference between sight picture and sight alignment. I will go into depth, and the .9 now is a good reference, wink, wink, stomp, stomp, for you to highlight and quickly identify for when you are at your unit level, when soldiers ask, what is the difference between my sight alignment and my sight picture? My sight picture is how I view, and your soldiers are viewing their targets through their sights. Your sights alignment, your sights are always aligned. Are they aligned correctly is the question. This weapon system's sights are aligned. The optics system is aligned with the weapon system, and these sights are aligned somewhere. If this has been mounted as talked about before, these sights are aligned. My sight picture is the end user level viewing my target through my sights. Common aiming errors. You as leaders and soldiers coming through the Marksmanship Academy need to be able to identify common aiming errors for your soldiers. These include non-dominant eye use, an incorrect zero, light conditions, battlefield obscurance, incorrect sight alignments, incorrect sight picture, improper range determination, and sight malfunctions. Sergeant Fulmer will now give 2 demonstrations for you to take back to your soldiers to see if they know what their dominant eyes are.
Eye dominance. So, I myself actually have a unique situation. I am right-handed, but I am left eye dominant. Typically, people are either left-handed, left eye dominant, right-handed, right eye dominant. So I'm actually cross-dominant. So the way that I have to mitigate the issues with that is that I actually have to close my left eye, typically when I'm shooting or when I get my sight picture through that scope. At that point in time, I can open up my left eye, and then I can actually still see all of my surroundings. But if I keep my left eye open while I'm getting into that scope, it'll create a little bit of a cross thing, and it'll create confusion in my brain. So if you yourself are cross-eye dominant, I highly recommend closing that left eye, getting behind your weapon system, getting into that scope, into that optic, and then you can probably open your left eye and go from there. If you don't know if you are left or right eye dominant, there's a simple test for that. So you can go in front of yourself just like this, find a known point on a wall or whatever it is, just get that eye box, get that physical observation of whatever you're looking at, and now bring that box into your head and see which eye it goes to. For me, it goes to my left eye, once again because I'm right-handed, but I'm left eye dominant. Now, there's different things you can do if you don't want to play with that whole left eye open, left eye closed situation. You can learn to shoot left-handed or right-handed if you really want to. I myself have probably 10,000 some hours of shooting with my right hand, but my left eye closed. So that's what I do. I'm not going to relearn how to shoot at this point in my career.
Continuing would be an incorrect zero. With the individual weapons qualification during tables 4, if the soldier receives a go and continues on to tables 5 and 6 with an incorrect 0, that will be a common aiming error. We must not let our soldiers attempt to qualify, practice qualification, and or for record qualification without ensuring they have a correct 0. Light conditions. Our soldiers should be able to run the IWQ in any condition. Battlefield obscurance, smoke, obstacles, etc. Incorrect sight alignment, incorrect sight picture. We had talked about the differences between sight picture and sight alignment. Incorrect sight alignment, these sights are aligned. All of your sights and your soldier sights are aligned. They may need to be zeroed to the individual soldier. If they are not, you will have incorrect sight alignment. Incorrect sight picture. Who in here has ever heard the term, and I'm sure you all have, nose to charging handle? That is an easy way and a repeatable process for the end soldier to be able to have repeatable sight picture viewing their targets. Consistency. Consistently will build upon accuracy. Improper range determination. This should not be a problem for you as leaders because during the IWQ, we will and should be confirming at distance per the .40. As well as sight malfunctions. We had talked about it before on the importance of if your soldiers in your units have a buoys or backup iron sight, that it is zeroed to the end user. In the case that the primary optic fails, a battery dies, the glass breaks, or it is removed, our soldiers should be able to, in case of a sight malfunction, remove their optic systems even during a timed qualification and be able to qualify with their individual assigned weapons. The visual aid graph on the right shows a pistol rear sight aperture and front sight post. This is a very common picture that will allow us to see if our sights are properly aligned and our sight picture is consistent. If these sights are aligned and zeroed for the end user, your sight picture may differ. On the far left, for a pistol on the M17, a term that is used for you to take back and teach your soldiers is equal height and equal light. As we can see on the demonstration, the front sight post, which is the middle rectangle, is aligned within the rear sight aperture, the two outside rectangles. If the soldier can align their front sight post with their rear sight aperture, allowing equal height and equal light, which means that your three rectangles, your front sight post and rear sight aperture, should be flush, as well as equal light from the left-hand side of view through the right-hand side of view. If they are not, these are where the points of impact may and most often will occur if your sights are not pictured correctly. Proper sight alignment and sight picture for equal height and equal light would be focusing on the front sight post with a blurry rear sight aperture and a blurry target. Continuing on, Chapter 7-16, Environmental Conditions. I will now let Sergeant Fulmer demonstrate and explain environmental conditions and his subject matter expertise on how to alleviate deficiencies within your operating environment.
All right, a big factor people don't consider during the IWQ is the wind conditions of the targetry. So when we're looking downrange, we need to understand which way the wind is coming from and what effect it's going to have on that bullet. So luckily, the IWQ only goes out to 300 yards. If we were shooting out to 400, 500, even 600 yards, that wind direction and that wind speed is really going to have an effect on our target. But since we're only shooting out to 300, typically, unless we're in hurricane-type situations, which hopefully you're not out on the range in a hurricane-type situation, you will only need to hold left or right edge of the target, not typically off that target. Once we get past wind speeds of roughly about 20 miles an hour, that's when we're actually going to have to hold off that target into that wind to account for it. Mirage. So this is something that they really drive home in sniper school. This is how you are able to read the wind and how it's affecting you downrange at your actual target. So now what mirage is, we've all seen it looking down like a highway or something in the desert. We've all seen those kind of rays or those visible waves of light kind of refracting through that temperature change, and that's what's causing that mirage coming up. Now that wind will actually blow that mirage left, right, or whatever it is, and you can physically see it. You can physically see it and make that assumption without being downrange to understand what that wind is doing on your target. Now with wind, you also have to be mindful of the terrain around you. If there's a tree line on the left or right side of your range, that's going to affect the wind. If there's different terrain such as saddles, that'll also have a different effect on the wind. It'll funnel that wind in certain areas and block it in others. So once again, this is why we really like watching mirage. When you're watching mirage, you're seeing what the wind is doing physically on your target downrange. And you won't have to account for that as much if you can physically see the mirage and understand what the wind is doing to your target.